What's going on, folks? Today we're going to be doing a full-on technical review of the 2023 Toyota Rav4 Hybrid. We're going to talk about some differences between the hybrid and the non-hybrid, what you should be looking out for, and I'm going to give you not only just a car review and test drive, but I'm going to do a full technical review. As many of you know, I'm an engineer. I've worked as an engineer and a mechanic for the last decade, and I want to show you all the details that you're not going to get from another channel, so stay tuned. So the first thing we're going to talk about with this RAV4 is the styling. So it got changed in 2019 to a new body style, and some people like it, some don't. I tend to like it. Some of the things I don't like about the exterior are the panels are just kind of flimsy. Other things, they did do some great things, I think. They put the backup camera in here, but the styling overall I like. Now in the hybrid, you will, even if you get the base model, you will get alloy wheels. You won't get the hubcap wheels like on the LE non-hybrid, which I have one of those that I'll do another review on. Now let's pop the hood. Let's take a look underneath. So this generation, it's been around since 2019, like I said. The motor in this is completely different than the non-hybrid. First of all, it's paired up with an electric hybrid motor. The next part, the engine itself, the gasoline engine itself, is not quite the same. It's still the 2.5 liter, but this is a 2.5 liter dynamic force, which the valves in it are straight up and down, unlike the Atkinson one. We can talk about that later, but the non-hybrid has an Atkinson cycle motor. That's a tongue twister to say it. This one is a A25A dynamic force, and like I said before, the angles of the valves are basically straight up and down. There is no real angle to the valves themselves. Some of the other things, I'm going to pull the camera a little bit closer to the motor. I'm going to show you some things that I think from an engineer perspective, as myself, Toyota is going in the right direction that makes them highly sought after. So on the side of this motor, might be a little hard to tell, I'm going to pull this cover off. We have the gear and motor on the timing to advanced or retard the gears for the timing, and it's right here. This is like the motor that kind of controls it all. And in my engineer perspective, this is Toyota's attempt to kind of steer away from the variable valve time system, as a lot of manufacturers, including Toyota, has had problems with. Toyota has had less, but there's still problems with variable valve time systems, especially on owners that don't take care of vehicles. The other thing that I truly like about Toyota is their injection system. Now, they use a Toyota D4S direct and port injection system. I'll show you a picture of this. Basically, the motor has two types of injectors. It has the old style port injectors, which is good for cleaning the valves, and it has the direct injection, which is good for horsepower and fuel economy and emissions and all kinds of other stuff. The problem with direct injection, as we've discussed before, is carbon buildup on the valves. That is the other issue. The other thing that is different on these Toyotas, I don't know if we can see it down here, but it does have an electric water pump. It's not a belt or gear-driven water pump. The gear-driven water pumps, in my opinion, are the worst design ever, because when they fail, they basically leak coolant in the system, and you get oil and coolant mixed together without even a head gasket failure. So those are horrible. The electric water pump with a coolant control valve, it minimizes the heat loss. Some coolant valves have minimal issues, and therefore the thermostat sort of needs replaced. I will say that might be the only touchy thing on this vehicle, is you need to keep up on your fluid changes. Don't let these things go too long. The cooling system is sort of sensitive in here. And I might even suggest replacing the thermostat at just a predetermined interval as well. But as you can see, this is the hybrid engine. This over here is the gas. And as you can see, these large orange wires, these are part of the high voltage system for the hybrid. And that's the motor right there. The battery is underneath the back seat. We'll talk about that in a little bit because there's some maintenance items that you need to look at when you're have these cars that you might not have to even think about with a non-hybrid car. Another thing is the transmission. So the non-hybrid is a regular 8-speed transmission, and the hybrid has what we call the eCVT transmission. And some people absolutely hate the CVT transmissions. I will say, though, the eCVT is a different animal, and Toyota really does it right. This transmission actually has a launch gear, too, so the first gear that you're in, to take away the sloppiness of CVT transmissions, you get a launch gear with it, which I believe is exclusive to the hybrid. I'm not sure on that, but I will talk about that later. It's a great transmission, though. Just be sure to stay on top of fluid changes, change it out when you need to, and don't go over the mileage. CVTs have notoriously got a bad rap, and rightfully so. Some of them are made very junky, especially like Nissans. We're talking about Jacko transmissions. Awful designs. Let's take a look underneath the vehicle. So here is the whole system is covered, which means you're going to minimize corrosion and increase aerodynamics of everything. We're going to talk about under here on the differential is that cover right there. Do you see that? That is the EGR, the electronic gear motor, I believe is what Toyota call it. So before, they didn't really have any drain holes in this thing, and so when water got stuck in here, it pulled up and it corroded that orange connector in there. Water was basically sitting inside that high voltage connector, which seems dangerous as crud, and it would corrode that connector and cause failures. Well, now they do have drain holes in there. If you have an earlier version of these, I think 22 and under, you might consider making some drain holes. Just be very careful when you're drilling. Don't hit any of those high voltage lines. I will say that. The other thing, we do have electronic brake system, parking brake here. Some people hate it. I actually like it. I think it's very simple. One of the things I don't like is they do have single calipers, but these are regenerative brakes, so they're hybrids. I'm not sure on the non-hybrid what they do, but the knuckle is actually paired up from an aluminum to a steel bearing. So in the future, that's going to cause problems. That's going to get seized on, and it's going to be very hard to remove. That's one thing I think Toyota should update with these. The other thing is, look how channeled those lower control arms are in the back. So you create like this seamless transition to kind of capture the aerodynamics, because this thing is really made for efficiency. It gets over 40 miles a gallon. So on the front, let's check it out. We have sort of the same thing. Independent front suspension, and you got single caliper brakes, and you have that aluminum knuckle into the steel bearing, which, like I said, might cause some problems. Let's talk about a few other problems that these Toyotas sort of have that have been issues that have plagued the previous generation. So let's open the door here. I'm going to show you this door seal. Now, this thing is notorious for kind of getting dirty and plugged up, and then it clogs the drain holes, and then you basically have water pooling in this seal door area, and it can cause problems in the future. Now, if you notice too that this side right here is just very flat, it's not very angled like a lot of cars, and I think that's why you sort of have some issues with drainage and stuff like that in here. Now, the other part of the interior, I'm not going to talk about the interior too much. It's basic cable. There's nothing too exciting about it. It's a good interior, though. Like, it's functional. It's not confusing. The other thing we're going to talk about is our filter. So you see down here, this area right here needs to be kept clear at all times. This is where the filter and the airflow for the battery for the hybrid system are, because the battery is basically underneath this seat right here. And if you have a plugged air filter, it's going to ruin that battery at a much faster rate, and you're going to have a problem. So I'm going to suggest on this filter right here, you do overkill. You replace it every 30,000-40,000 miles. I don't care what anybody says, just play it safe, especially if you live in a dusty area. And like me, I got kids, so they're always throwing stuff back here and, you know, making a mess. So I always want to make sure that that thing is not plugged up. But other than that, folks, that's it. That's a full technical review of the Toyota Rav4 Hybrid. In the future, I'm going to do kind of another video comparing the hybrid and non-hybrid a little bit more. I just wanted to show you the big differences here. I will say, though, I like this vehicle. We got this vehicle kind of as a gap between when my wife's Traverse gets fixed with the airbag recall, which is going to happen this month. It only took GM a year after they issued the recall. Some of that was on Takata, but nonetheless, it's getting fixed. This vehicle is about to become a rental. I wanted to give you a full review on this, though, because I've been driving this vehicle for 6 months. And there are some things that I like about it, and there's some things I don't like about it. But I will say, overall, we had to wait 13 months to get this vehicle. This vehicle was very hard to get because they're just not making a lot of them. And Toyota, Honda, Subaru, all those vehicles they just have limited supply still, when a lot of the other manufacturers have excess. So that tells you something right there, that people want these vehicles. Because they are fairly affordable. They're not the cheapest, but for a little bit more money, you can get a lot more vehicle than you can from Ford, GM, Chrysler, Stellantis, whatever you want to call that company, which basically sells a bunch of hot garbage. I do have some of their vehicles, you know, and I'm very particular about maintenance on those things. So I hope you liked this video. I hope this was a good video. Please let me know what you're thinking. Please like and subscribe. Come check out some of my other videos. I am going to do more of these car review videos, and I hope that these are a tad bit different than just the regular old, hey, this is how this car drives, and, you know, here's all the cool functions. You know, I'm a technical guy. I know a lot of people that watch my channel are technical people. They care more about the mechanics and how things work and how reliable they are. All these fancy features they could care less about. At the end of the day, does it drive? Does it work? Does it get me from A to B? And does it not break down all the time? Until then, God bless. Please go check out my website, fixyourcar.net. Go click on that orange button. You get your free guide on maintenance. Until then, God bless. Take care. And hope you're having a great April. Take care, guys. Bye. Okay, let's go take this puppy for a spin. One of the first things you're going to notice when you back this thing up is it makes that kind of electric car sound. I can't mimic it, but we've all heard it, and it sounds a bit strange, but it's literally just to make noise as the vehicle's backing up, because it's so quiet when you're backing up because it's in all electric mode. There is no real engine sound unless you have the heater on, in which the motor will turn over and heat up the engine. So we're getting up on the road now. We're just kind of doing light cruising. The vehicle itself, when you're driving at low speeds, it's okay. I won't say that it's great. There is definitely a lot of road noise in this car. High speeds, low speeds. And you can kind of tell as I'm driving, the camera is kind of bouncing up and down. The suspension isn't the lightest feel or most softest, cushiest. It's not a luxury car though. It is an economy SUV at heart. And the things it does well, I like, and then the things it doesn't, we can disagree on. One of the things I will mention, since this vehicle has regenerative brakes, they seem like they get very dirty very fast. And what that means is it's a hybrid, so it's part electric, part gas. The brakes try to catch some of the energy that's stored when you brake or slow down. So that's the point. And part of it is they do get very dirty, and they seem to kind of squeak a lot. This vehicle, like I said, we've only had it about 6 months. We've been driving it, here and there, doing different things, and at low speeds you can sometimes hear the brakes squeak a little bit. Promise I'm not heavy on the brakes, it's just that's what they do. Another thing, when there's these different modes you can switch on and off. This indicator right here, you can move it between eco and sport and normal. So you see it turns red when you go sport. Let's see how it performs. Okay, so we're getting up on the highway now. I'm gonna give it a little romp and just see how it performs. Now I got it in sport mode, so let's see. Whoa, baby. Woo! For a little compact SUV, this thing gets on it. I will say most of that, the early acceleration, that's probably the launch mode, where that electric motor is in gear with the launch mode gear. So it has a single gear off to the side of the eCVT transmission that really makes it go. And boy, does it. I don't know the 0 to 60 time. We could look it up. Maybe I'll post it down in the description below. But that's kind of fun when you romp on it. I'm not gonna lie. Maybe no speed demon. You're not gonna run away from the cops in this thing, but still fun yet. Now that we got it up to kind of more highway-ish speeds, let's listen in on the interior. Can you kind of hear some of those rattles and rumbles from the just vehicle on the road? Now it's a unibody construction with independent suspension. It doesn't ride the best, but most people that are looking for an economy car, economy SUV crossover, they're not going to care about this. This is something you're going to find in like a lot higher end luxury models. Basically, you'd hope that you wouldn't hear this on the Lexus versions of these, which are much higher end. They have better suspension, steering, all of that, coupled with a lot of the same platform as far as like powertrain and the basics of it.